The scariest part was not that my sister wanted my husband. It was that she made him believe she was protecting him from me. I was sitting in my car in the underground parking garage of St. Alder Medical Center when I realized my hands were shaking so badly I could not turn the key. The thought that kept looping in my head was simple and terrifying. She has been inside my marriage longer than I have. The concrete ceiling pressed low above me. The fluorescent lights flickered like they were tired too. And all I could think was that my sister knew exactly how to smile while destroying something from the inside. I had come to the hospital alone that morning for routine blood work, but I left with the certainty that my life had been quietly rearranged by someone who shared my childhood bedroom. My name is Claire, and I used to believe that loyalty was automatic when you shared the same parents, the same holidays, the same last name. I believed that envy belonged to strangers, not to the girl who borrowed my clothes and cried with me after our father died. That belief lasted until the night my husband stopped looking me in the eyes. It did not start with a fight. There was no dramatic moment that announced something was wrong. It started with small pauses, the way Evan hesitated before answering simple questions, the way his phone screen went dark whenever I entered the room, the way his affection became careful, almost cautious, as if he were afraid of saying the wrong thing. I blamed stress first. Work deadlines, money, the ordinary erosion that happens in long relationships, but there was a quiet accusation in the air that I could not name. When I asked him if everything was okay, he said yes too quickly, then followed it with a sigh that felt rehearsed. My sister Lily had moved closer to us a few months earlier, just a temporary thing, she said, while she figured out her next step. She was always between plans, always on the edge of something better, something bigger, something she deserved. I offered help without thinking. Spare keys, dinners, weekends, the way you do when you assume good intentions. Lily had always been charming in a soft way, the kind of person who listened carefully and asked questions that made you feel seen. People trusted her easily, and I had never questioned why, because she was my sister, because trust felt natural. Evan liked her, which made me happy at first. It felt like harmony, like my worlds fitting together. The first crack appeared on a quiet Sunday afternoon in our kitchen, sunlight spilling across the counter while Evan washed dishes. Lily sat at the table with a cup of tea, telling a story about someone from work, when she laughed and said, half joking, "Claire has always been sensitive. You know that. She takes things very personally." It was said lightly, with a smile, but something about the way Evan nodded made my stomach tighten. I told myself I was imagining it, that siblings tease, that it meant nothing. But the seed was planted. After that, comments slipped in more often, never cruel, never obvious, always framed as concern. Lily would say things like, "I worry about how stressed Claire gets," or "I hope she's not putting too much pressure on you, Evan." She said them when I was not in the room, or when she thought I was distracted, and each time she sounded reasonable, loving even. Evan did not repeat these conversations to me directly, but I felt their residue in the way he watched me, as if measuring my reactions, as if testing a theory he had not fully accepted yet. The first time I confronted him, we were lying in bed, the room dark except for the glow of the streetlight outside. I asked him if Lily had said something about me, and he hesitated long enough to answer without lying. He said she was just worried, that she thought I might be overwhelmed, that she only wanted the best for us. The words stung more than if he had accused me outright, because they were wrapped in kindness. How do you defend yourself against concern? How do you argue with someone who claims they are protecting you? I started paying attention in a way I never had before, noticing how Lily positioned herself between us on the couch, how she remembered details about Evan's childhood that I had never heard, how she texted him late at night about nothing urgent. When I asked her about it, she laughed and said I was being paranoid, that she thought of him like a brother. Paranoia is a powerful silencer. Once you accept that label, you begin to doubt your own instincts. I apologized to her for questioning her intentions, and she hugged me tightly, whispering that she understood, that I had been through a lot, that she would never hurt me. Evan grew more distant after that, not cold, just withdrawn, as if he were waiting for something to confirm his unease. I felt like I was constantly on trial for a crime I did not know the charges for. The turning point came on an ordinary evening, the kind you forget until it becomes unforgettable. Evan and I were supposed to meet Lily for dinner, but I arrived late after a meeting ran long. When I walked into the restaurant, I saw them laughing together, leaning in close, their heads bent like conspirators. They stopped when they saw me, too quickly, and Lily stood up to hug me, telling me how tired I looked, how I should really slow down. Evan did not correct her. On the drive home, the silence was heavy enough to bruise. When I finally asked what they had been talking about, Evan said Lily was worried about me again, that she thought I might be unhappy in our marriage, that she wondered if I was staying out of obligation rather than love. The shock of it made my chest tighten, because the idea had never crossed my mind until she put it there. I asked him if he believed that, and he did not answer immediately, which felt like an answer on its own. That night, while he slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling and realized that my sister was not attacking me directly. She was rewriting me in someone else's mind. She was telling a story about me that sounded plausible, caring, almost protective, and I was losing control of my own narrative. I tried to talk to Lily the next day, asked her to stop discussing my marriage with my husband. She looked genuinely hurt, tears welling in her eyes as she said she was only trying to help, that she had seen relationships fail because people ignored the signs. She asked why I was so threatened by her concern. I left her apartment feeling ashamed, like I had accused an innocent person, like I was the problem after all. But doubt has a way of resurfacing, especially when it is fed. Evan started questioning my moods, my reactions, my memories, asking if I remembered things the way they actually happened. He said Lily thought I might be projecting my stress onto him, that she worried I was unhappy no matter what he did. I felt myself shrinking, editing my words, trying to appear calm, reasonable, unproblematic. I did not realize that the more I tried to prove my stability, the more unstable I appeared. The moment I knew it was intentional came unexpectedly, on a rainy afternoon when Lily left her phone on our kitchen counter while she ran to the bathroom. I had no intention of looking at it, but it lit up with Evan's name, a message preview visible without touching anything. It said, "I did not mean to upset you last night. I just want you to be happy, even if that means admitting she is not right for you." My heart started pounding so loudly, I thought Lily would hear it from the other room. I did not open the message. I did not need to. The implication was clear enough. This was no longer concern. It was persuasion. When Lily returned, smiling like nothing had happened, I realized the most frightening part was not that she wanted my marriage. It was that she believed she deserved it. That night, I confronted Evan with what I had seen, my voice shaking despite my effort to stay calm. He looked cornered, defensive, then confused, saying Lily had only been trying to help him understand his feelings, that she never crossed a line. I asked him if she had ever told him she had feelings for him, and he said no, but the way he said it felt incomplete. I slept on the couch, listening to the rain against the windows, knowing that the story was no longer just about lies, it was about loyalty, and about how easily doubt can be dressed up as care. By morning, I had decided to stop reacting and start observing, because whatever Lily was doing, she was doing it carefully, and I needed to understand the full shape of it before it destroyed what was left of my marriage. I did not know then how far she was willing to go, or how long she had been planning it, but I knew one thing with absolute clarity. My sister was not just standing between me and my husband, she was slowly replacing me in his trust, one conversation at a time. I started paying attention to details I had ignored before. The timing of Lily's visits, the way Evan seemed more relaxed after talking to her, the subtle shift in how he framed our arguments, always beginning with "I talked to Lily and she made me realize." It was never said with malice. It was said like gratitude, and that made it harder to challenge. I stopped confiding in my sister completely, but she did not stop offering herself as a safe place for my husband. She texted him about his work stress, his childhood, his doubts, always presenting herself as neutral, as someone who wanted clarity for him, peace for us. In reality, she was collecting fragments of our life and rearranging them into something that excluded me. One evening we were sitting in the living room, the television on but muted, when Evan finally said it out loud. He asked if I had ever thought about taking a break, Not because he wanted to leave, he said, but because Lily thought space might help me reconnect with myself. I felt something cold move through my chest, because the words did not sound like his. I asked him when my feelings had become something my sister needed to manage, and he looked genuinely surprised, as if that thought had never occurred to him. That was when I understood how effective her strategy had been. She had positioned herself as an authority on me, someone who understood me better than I understood myself. The next day, Lily invited me for coffee at a small cafe near the river, the kind of place with soft music and exposed brick walls, a setting designed to feel intimate and safe. She held my hands across the table and told me she was worried about Evan, that he felt unappreciated, misunderstood, lonely even when he was not alone. She said she did not blame me, that I had always been intense, that relationships with people like me required special care. I listened quietly, because interrupting her would have turned me into the unstable version of myself she was already describing. When she finished, I asked her a single question, whether she had ever imagined herself in my place. She laughed at first, then stopped when she saw my face. She said that was an unfair thing to ask, that she would never betray me, that I was projecting my fears onto her intentions. But there was a hesitation in her voice, just long enough to confirm what she refused to admit. After that conversation, the boundaries disappeared completely. Lily started showing up unannounced, cooking for Evan when I worked late, staying longer than necessary, positioning herself as indispensable. She praised him in ways I never had, told him he was patient, misunderstood, too good for constant tension. She was not flirting openly. She did not need to. She was offering emotional refuge. Evan began defending her when I expressed discomfort, saying she was the only one who seemed to understand both sides, that she was trying to save us. I wondered how saving us had come to mean isolating me. The moment everything broke happened on a night that should have been ordinary. I came home earlier than expected, and found Lily sitting close to Evan on the couch, her hand resting on his arm. They moved apart immediately when they saw me, guilt flashing across both faces in different ways. I did not scream. I did not cry. I asked her to leave. Lily stood up slowly, telling Evan she would text him later, telling me not to overreact. That word, overreact, landed heavier than anything else she had done. After she left, Evan admitted that she had told him she had feelings for him, but only because she cared so deeply about our happiness. He said she never acted on it, that she was honest, that she trusted him. I asked him why he trusted her more than me, and he could not answer. That night, I packed a small bag and left, not because I wanted to punish him, but because I needed space to hear my own thoughts again. I stayed with a friend across town, lying awake in an unfamiliar room, replaying years of memories, searching for the moment my sister decided my life belonged to her. Over the next few days, Lily sent me long messages filled with concern and regret, saying she never meant for things to go this far, that she was only trying to protect Evan from pain, that she hoped one day I would forgive her. She never apologized for wanting him, only for how it made me feel. Evan called too, confused, torn, saying he loved me, but admitting that Lily had made him question things he had never questioned before. He said he needed time to sort out what was his and what had been planted. I realized then that the damage was not just the betrayal. It was the erosion of trust, the fact that someone who knew my weaknesses had weaponized them with patience and a smile. I eventually returned home, not because everything was resolved, but because running would not undo what had been done. Lily was no longer welcome in our space, a boundary Evan agreed to with visible reluctance. That reluctance told me more than his words ever could. Our marriage did not collapse overnight, but it changed shape. Conversations became careful, fragile, as if we were rebuilding on uncertain ground. Some days felt almost normal. Others felt like walking through a house after a storm, intact on the surface but structurally compromised. As for Lily, she drifted away slowly, telling family members a version of events where she was misunderstood, where her intentions were pure, where I was too damaged to see it. I did not correct the story, because I had learned that fighting someone else's narrative only feeds it. What I live with now is not hatred. It is clarity. I understand how envy can wear the mask of love, how betrayal does not always arrive loudly, Sometimes it whispers, until you doubt your own voice. I do not know what the future holds for my marriage, but I know this: the most dangerous betrayals come from the people who already know where you are vulnerable, and the most painful losses are the ones that happen quietly, while everyone is smiling and calling it care.